I will say this though, and this is because one I 100% agree with you, but I'm Hudson. When you talk about being the big dog, you ever see those pictures of these like huge pit bulls that seem to weigh like a 200 pounds or whatever these things are? These massive dogs with paws like this. That's what Hudson's got to be, and this is the reason why. This is why Hudson can't just be good this offseason. This is why good won't be good enough for him. When you Steve Sarkisian used his get out of jail free card in year one. Used it. You know, you get one. You get one. A lot of times it happens in year two. Sometimes it happens in year three. Happened for him in year one. It went 5-7 in year one. Okay.
It's like having a bad first date.
It's really bad. and you want to go back out with her again. And she might let you, she might talk herself into it, but you can't have a bad second date.
Ever.
Like because that happened. And so the problem is if he goes Hudson and it's just okay, now the hot seat stuff starts coming up. Now all of a sudden it's job security. Now all of a sudden recruiting is affected. All these things that come along with a coach that's just okay. One of the things I'm going to write at some point, but I thought our rivals guy was really Farrell was really really good and astute about was how long do coaches really have in as for a job nowadays? And Farrell talked about 5 years, but nowadays it's about 2. And we're not expecting anything to happen with that, but it looks different when you're playing the young guy, because now all of a sudden you can get a little bit back of your get out of jail free card because you're playing the young guy. And that's why. And so if he goes with Hudson came out all guns blazing, you only live once, and it was just clear. It couldn't even be a competition. I mean, you know what I'm saying, Ketch? It's got to be a Vince Carter dunk where it's over, and you go to yourself.
How bold of a decision would it be to pick Card this year, knowing that politically, it's just like with Charlie in year 2, man. It's just like that. Or I guess in year 3, you can't go with if you go with the new guy and he fails, at least you've got newness to lean on. If you go with the old guy and he fails, it's like, well, why didn't you play the new guy? Let's get somebody who play the new guy. Mm-hmm. And it's what made if you go all the way back to it's the Tyrone Swoop stuff, and it's not even close. It centers around the disbelief that an entire fan base had that their coach would make such an unsavvy political move. Surely he's not going to do that. Charlie, what are you thinking? Like, that's how it was framed. And even when we reported it, we were like, hey, don't confuse us reporting this with us saying that it's a smart thing to do.
You remember our conversations that we had before we came out with that war room? And we were like, we don't want to do this shit.
It was like we didn't want to. Hours of how in the hell are we exactly going to convey what was at the time a rather emphatic message? Mm-hmm. If it was wishy-washy, we wouldn't even have done that. It's a whim. It was not a whim. It was emphatically, it's not even close part. Wasn't a report like that. Wasn't us with an opinion. That was a direct quote.
Correct. Which, by the way, you catch, I always bring this up. In hindsight, is there anyone that's going to stand on the table and say, you know what? No way I thought Charlie Strong would make a bad decision. I mean, like it should all click now. Like it should all be like, oh, well, that makes sense.
I mean, it's 50-50 every day. Like, what do you call Charlie Strong potentially making a bad decision? Monday? A day that ends with the word day. That's what we call it. And so it's again, that's how good Hudson Card would need a Quinn Ewers injury to play and start. The issue is if he gets himself ready, Quinn will probably get hurt at some point this year. When have you and I covered a Texas football season when quarterbacks have survived every game? literally your career started with a quarterback's brain scrambling.
Yeah.
Like you started with David Ash, and then almost Sam had a hard time. 3 out of his 4 seasons, he couldn't stay healthy. And even in the final season, he was banged up. So it stands to reason that at some point this year, Hudson Card will get his chance.
Catch, they almost played Ben Ballard against West Virginia because they were out of quarterbacks.
Yeah. No. It's super optimistic to be like, no, we're definitely going to get 12 games out of Quinn Ewers behind a bunch of kids blocking for him. You know, I mean, it is what it is. What Hudson Card has to do is he's got a tall wall to climb. And neither one of us think that he's getting there without events reshaping the conversation, i.e. Quinn's unavailable, i.e. I don't even know. You know, is it like Ace Ventura, Pet Detective? Did somebody kidnap Quinn? I mean, we're going to have to leap to he got injured in a bass fishing accident. Like, I don't know. I don't know what levels of like craziness we would have to go to where maybe he's not getting the benefit of the doubt. But when he gets his moment, he's got to be super ready for it. And it starts now. It starts with chip on shoulder, put your nose down and just grind and junkyard dog it and make it about getting the best out of yourself you possibly. He's super talented. So, you know, like there's a ceiling for him that he hasn't reached. He's got to be desperate to get to it. And if that happens, we've seen that Steve Sarkisian will change his mind, play 8.5 quarters of good football in a row, and he'll be with him. Like, so, you know, I think the thing is, if there's a question mark about Hudson Card, is that he's a little quiet. In addition to the whole ghost thing, like his rep now is that he's not, I think, the alpha male that we always talked about with Sam. It's never how Hudson, if anything, Casey was the guy that exhibited the alpha male tendencies last year throughout the offseason, but Hudson displayed the talent. You know, like I think Quinn seems to be a guy that's going to have guys gravitate towards him. You know, Hudson's just got to go be good. You know what makes guys gravitate to you? Being really freaking good. And he's got to make it clear. And I don't know if that's even possible. Like at the end of the day, Quinn Ewers might be better than him. And his ceiling might be higher than his high ceiling. It makes this offseason in the quarterback debate really interesting. Because if Hudson Card ends up being meaningless, nobody's going to care if Quinn Ewers is sensational. But if both of them were sensational, I'm curious to see what that world looks. I don't know that I've ever seen that before.
The hard part, so when we mentioned the players saw Hudson blink as well. And the players commented on that as well too, Catch. Yeah. So they you know, and they weren't trying to throw him under the bus, but they can tell. They saw it. Like it was evident on the sidelines. And again, how did the players get that out of their mouth? You know, they'll say all the right things, but in the back of their mind, they're going to be one. I mean, Catch, this team will play Alabama in week 2. Okay, you talk about blinking. I mean, there's going to be a lot of blinking going on because, you know, we talked to, you know, and I talked to someone, you know, from the Alabama side recently. This Nick Saban's going to come in here on a mission for a school that he, you know, could have gone to at one point, and all that stuff that predates me of how that whole thing went down, to Steve Sarkisian, one of his pupils, and him wanting to, you know what Nick wants to do. And Saban rarely gets to play the chip on the shoulder card, but they got punked out in the national championship game and they finished just short.
And now he gets to be the tough guy. Now he gets to do things. It'll be a very Nick Saban thing to do, to just like play that national championship game on TV monitors throughout the season. Like, he's going to want his team to have an edge all season long. Next year, we get back, we play them again, we finish the job. Like, that's a different mentality than like, do you think Texas should even play Quinn Ewers in that? One of these days before this offseason's over with, we're going to have the conversation of, should you throw Quinn Ewers to the Wolves right away? Or do you let the Wolves come to town, eat all the farm animals, and then in week 3, you throw him once the Wolves are gone? Because isn't Hudson Card's best chance to get on the field that Quinn Ewers melts down against Alabama? It's his second freaking career start. What is it that we're asking of Quinn Ewers, not over the course of 12 games where we say, by the end of the year, you've thrown 30 touchdown passes and we'd like to see you keep it under 10 interceptions or whatever these mythical numbers are that stand as the goal for performance-wise. What do you expect in week 2? And is there a risk with such a young guy that he's exactly where Hudson Card was a year ago? Just a baby amount of taste of playing as a true freshman, counts as a red shirt. He's in his second year. He's never made a career start. He's never really played in a game. Hudson Card at that exact same stage blinked. What do we expect? Not to blink is the answer, right? But what if he does blink? What if the answer is maybe don't play freshman quarterbacks against better teams in week 2 of the season when they're freshmen? Don't do that. It's bad for them.
I know, but I don't think that anyone knew that Arkansas was going to be,
but they turned out to be pretty good. Like, that was a good football team.
They're coming off of 3 wins. I don't think any of us expected that, right? I mean, and Arkansas wasn't world beaters. We know what Bama is. So
I thought Arkansas was the best team Texas played last year.
Better than Baylor?
Yes. I think of Arkansas.
You mean talent-wise, or do you mean team-wise?
I mean, they were so physical,
mm-hmm.
and I don't think that they had quite the skill talent that Baylor had. But I don't know, they were so physical. I mean, Texas was leading Baylor into the 4th quarter, whereas Arkansas put the pimp hand on Texas so emphatically. And, in the end, they were a pretty blood and guts team, played in a tough division. Like, in the end, they kind of got chewed up in the SEC as well. But I asked myself, what do I think Baylor or Oklahoma State would have done in the SEC West? They'd have lost a few games. There'd have been some coin flips that they won. They'd have lost to Alabama. But there have been some teams that would have just whipped them physically. And because it's just different. And I don't know. But, I think that at Alabama defense, man, let me ask you this. Forget about the quarterbacks. Forget about Quinn Ewers' name for a second. If you're starting any freshman ever in their second game against Alabama in week 2, don't you expect, mathematically, would it shock you if I told you that, 9 out of 10 times that goes bad?
I mean, it goes bad for upperclassmen. So, I mean,
there are varying degrees of bad, right? Yeah. There's Hudson Card bad against Arkansas. And then there's 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions. You weren't good, but you weren't bad. I just wonder, if I tell you that the math is, I'm just making this up, 9 out of 10 times, freshman quarterback, second career start, best team in the country. That's who they're paying, possibly, or second best team in the country, whatever. 9 out of 10 times that goes bad. If you knew that math going in, would you put that guy in that position? Or would you just say, well, he'll learn from it. He'll be better for it. Although we know that isn't always the case. Exhibit A, Hudson Card. Or do you say, you know what? No, let's let the other guy take that, and then we debut afterwards. And then at the end of the year, we still have our 8 wins, but like the new guy doesn't even have his fingerprints on that Alabama game. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah, I mean, one of the last things I'll say, Ketch, is, one of the things I thought, Casey should start the season and see what happens after Arkansas, and then, make the decision after that. I would say that probably again to a Hudson degree, but Sarkisian, totally thought the opposite, and he went with who he fell in love with. And, I think the Alabama game is going to be such a challenge anyway. Nobody on the Texas side would say we're going into this expecting to lose. We're just not affiliated with Texas, so we can say what we want. So I think at that point, I would go Quinn and just say, screw it. You're going to learn. Might be a rough day at the office, but we're going to have some hellified tape to study it and get better from. And look, if you think he's that dude, you think he's that future NFL guy, and you think that all these things, then I think if you're Texas, you got to tell yourself, look, we got a 5-star quarterback. We've got one of the best receivers in the country. We actually have 2 of the best receivers in the country. We've got a running back that could compete for a Heisman. We're going to be young up front. We just got a tight end from Alabama, so we got someone who can play at that level. I think if you're Texas, you got to talk yourself into, we've got some dogs on offense that, could be competitive with this team. Now, from a defensive standpoint, that's going to be totally different. But, you got some dogs on the offense. And so I think you tell yourself, screw it. We got to ride with Quinn.
The LSU loss, where they're just better than you. But, man, look how hard you pushed them. It's weird. Imagine a world where Texas wins that game. I'll just end it here. People will be finding clips of this show. Like, hello to myself in September if Texas wins the game, because people will go back to this video and they'll be like, look at Ketch talking about should they even play Quinn Ewers in that game as a sacrificial lamb. Touche in September, should Texas win this game, and we're talking about it 8 months out as like the big bad boogeyman. That Alabama game on paper just feels unnecessary right now. It just does. The quarterback debate, the event that will keep on going. Anwar, I have a video for us tomorrow. We'll save it for tomorrow. That'll be my tease. If you heard me earlier in this say I had something I wanted to talk about, that's before Anwar and I did like 50 minutes on the quarterback position. I don't know that either one of us knew that we had that completely in us, but never underestimate our ability to turn quarterback discussion into good YouTube content. By God, we turned it into an art form last year. Maybe this is just us doing our natural God-given talent thing. Just put the ball on a tee, start talking quarterbacks. Instant video, done. Do us a solid, like the video. If we said anything amusing at all, I have to believe some of those hypotheticals were worth a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel by all means. Comments in the comments section. You know what we need to do, Anwar? One of our videos this week needs to be us just reading comments from the comments section.
Oh, that could get ugly.
Just comments from the comments section on this week's things of videos. It could get ugly because, half the videos are just people asking for me to be replaced. Like, God, we like it when Anwar does it with Jason. Can Ketch get
you read the comments. So you read the comments on, hey, be great if you let someone else talk. You're like, nah.
Yeah, pretty much. The Orange Blood subscriber base didn't climb to the largest in the nation on the backs of people who only loved me.
Well, sometimes the checks cash either way, Ketch, whether they like you or love you.
There's something about me. I don't know what it is. You guys, if you made it through all 50 minutes of this video, that means you have to have some sort of a clue. Like I said, do a solid. Leave the comments in the comments section for myself and Anwar Richardson. You guys, Rogue Apothecary.
Oh, shit.
The sponsor, duh. let's just, before we get out of here, say special shout out to Rogue Apothecary. You can see their stuff right above my head. You can just go to therogueshop.com, use the passcode OrangeBloods for a discount. It's all like right here. Check it out. Go to Rogue Apothecary. Check them out at therogueshop.com. I can't give a bigger endorsement to Rogue. Like, Rogue is always around me. And if I pull this drawer out right now, let me see. Hold on.
Uh-oh.
Hold on. Hold on.
Going to
got like the jar of gummies right here. These are the Delta 8 gummies.
Mm-hmm. How many milligrams are those?
It says it's 100 milligrams, I think.
Okay. Sometimes the label says one thing, but then you have to look below.
Exactly. This says like 2,000.
Yeah, and I'm like always weird. I don't understand.
I'd be in a coma right now if I had taken a 2,000. But yes, I love me and my Rogue products. They are the sponsor of the Monday Overreaction show, and we do love them. So for Anwar and myself, you guys have an absolutely splendid Monday. We'll see you on Tuesday. Later.